You're in a bar. It's 50 dudes in that bar that don't want you in there. All right. You need to pick a team of you and 4 other wrestlers to make sure that the king, Lexis King, gets to the car.
They're BMW fans, Lexis. You know what I'm saying? So they ain't,
rough. Well, I'll tell you. One of my number ones is going to be Baron Corbin, because I just saw the other day he won another gold medal at a tournament. I mean, talk about a guy that's just such a pro.
Yeah.
And and doesn't act like he can actually be, you know what I mean? It's always the guys that act like they can fight who can't, But he's just the nicest guy. He's the lightest brother to work with, but he could break your leg in half. And
he was on my team.
Yeah.
I picked him.
I know who the real shooters are. I could tell you right now. I'd want Baron Corbin.
Mm-hmm.
I would want Karrion Kross.
Oh my God. I had him on my team too.
Not only that, they're also huge. So not only can they fight, but they're also big. And win or lose, I mean, shit, I'd still want Gable Steveson on my team. I got to train with that motherfucker, and he's the strongest human I've ever met. And I think he had a load of potential and would have been an amazing star.
Yeah.
This business. I think his mind was still in that world, the amateur wrestling world. And, because when you grow up, and that's all you do, I mean, that's what you live and you breathe, you know what I mean? Where a lot of these guys here, this is what whether they came from the indies, that's what they're focused on. So I think maybe his head was still in that sport. But talk about one of the baddest dudes I've ever met, literally picked me up in the air and held me in his hand in practice, and I couldn't get down. He held me up in the air with one hand. So I'd want Gable, I'd want Kross, I'd want Baron.
One more.
Shoot, I only need one more.
One more.
Man, who's a real shooter? I don't know. I guess we have to have a chick in there, don't we? We need Shayna in there.
No way.
She's one. If she doesn't get mentioned in the comments, everyone's always like, "Well, what about Shayna?"
Just in case someone at the bar's girlfriend's there, have her fight her.
And someone's girlfriend, it'd be a couple dudes that Shayna's going to take out. You don't have to worry about.
I've heard she's trouble. I've heard she will mess up. I'm not that good at the jiu-jitsu, but I go and I train at the same gym where they coach. So Shayna's a coach. Riddle's a coach. Riddle'll be a good one too.
I'm actually surprised no one's mentioned Riddle.
Bro.
He's whooped my ass, yeah. He's whooped me up.
So I tell you, Lex, so we had Trick Williams on the show a few weeks ago, and we asked him the same question. And, you have to take this up with him, but he put you on his bar fight crew. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, he figured if you were on the crew, half the guys might hate you anyway, so that half of them might leave and try to jump you, and it could help him. So, you might want to address that.
I mean, that's one way to do it. Also, too, I'm not afraid to be dirty, you know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and get on the ground and grapple you, honestly. If I was in a bar fight situation, I would probably do some dirty tactics. I'd probably headbutt somebody in the nose or kick them.
Hey, it's no fair.
You're trying to get
a beer bottle over their head. I know my dad was actually notorious for getting into bar fights and stuff, and he would break people's arms over the bar and stuff. He would do dirty shit. He once dangled some guy over the balcony of a riverfront restaurant over the water of the river. He's done some crazy shit. You ever heard the squeegee story with Sid Vicious?
What do you know about that story?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's been told 25 different times and it's changed a million times. But I guess the idea was that, my dad was punking him out at the bar and he went to the gas station and came back with the squeegee and shit and tried to fight him. But who knows? I've heard of my dad putting people through car windshields, and I've heard it all. He was trouble for sure. not in a jiu-jitsu technical way. Very much
just a bad dude type way.
Yeah, just a street kind of way. You know what I mean? I don't recall him. He played football and stuff, but I
played for the Bengals. For anyone who doesn't know,
I don't recall him ever doing martial arts and shit. You know what I mean? He would just beat you up.
Well, yeah. I mean, your dad wasn't the biggest man, and for him to make the Cincinnati Bengals at the position he played, that comes with a lot of heart and a lot of toughness. So I could definitely see, Brian Pillman.
Yeah, and a lot of it's the confidence and just being willing to say, F it. You know what I mean? I've heard stories of even CM Punk before he got into the MMA. Guys had a problem with it, and he'd be like, "All right, well, let's go outside and settle it." And CM Punk would be like, "All right, let's do it." You know what I mean? He was always willing to stick up for what he believed in. And I think my dad was the same way too. And there's a story, I don't know if it was Vader or somebody big, some big guy had a problem with my dad and was like, let's do it, let's fight or whatever. And my dad said, hey, dude, you beat my ass and nothing changes. Everybody expects you to beat my ass. But if I get lucky and if I fucking knock you out, dude, you're gonna be embarrassed for the rest of your life because you just somebody, you know what I mean? So, and part of it's that, part of it's just that verbal judo of just like, knowing that, you're fucking meaner and nastier and that, if it does go your way, then the other guy looks like shit,
Since we're talking Brian Pillman, and I love talking old school wrestling matches real quick. 1989, Halloween Havoc. I had that on VHS tape. Your dad against Lex Luger for the United States Championship. I can't tell you the amount of times in my life since 89 that I've watched that match. Your dad came to the ring bumping Def Leppard with, I think, some cheerleaders walking him to the ring. And then he and Lex put on like a 16, 17-minute match that, I don't know, I love. And I watch that on YouTube every now and then just out of the blue. So, not for nothing, but that, some of my Brian Pillman memory right there.
No, they play that. It's kind of cool working here. They always have matches playing on the monitors, and every now and then I'll look up and I'll see some Brian Pillman on there, and that match comes up a lot. And they're, I always say that the standard of tan back then was much higher. These guys were as you could be. We had a tanning bed in our house, so my dad owned a tanning bed, and they must have lived in them motherfuckers. They must have they were all tan and shit. Just a couple of bronze gods out there, and a lot of people criticize Lex's work, but I thought my dad got a hell of a match out of him that night, and they had a lot of great chemistry. And again, that's what the business was. You got these blonde, bronze, jacked up guys. The amount of work that they put into their physiques and stuff was unparalleled back then too. Obviously there was a lot less control on wellness policy and stuff, but at the same time, I still feel like back then, they put a lot of work into their physiques. Like they all looked really good, and that's something that we could all work on today too, to kind of bring back some of that. Some of that pure freaking muscle of the old 80s and 90s,
Watch new episodes of No Contest Wrestling every Wednesday or listen wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us at No Contest Wrestling Podcast on Instagram.